Shiraishi is a super quiet and painfully average high school kid who gets ignored by literally everyone. Like bro's so invisible, even the school Wi-Fi detects him more than the students do. But there's one exception, this cute purple-haired girl named Nagisa Kubo. She's insanely popular at school, and the moment she starts hanging around Shiraishi, people suddenly realize this NPC has been attending their class the whole time. See, Shiraishi's presence is so weak that people genuinely can't tell whether he's there or not. Not a little unnoticed, now bro evolved beyond human visibility. At this point he's basically a side quest character. He had already accepted that his entire life was gonna be spent as a background character. Meanwhile the audience watching this is probably relating a little too hard right now. One day, while he's just sitting at his desk minding his own business, Kubo suddenly walks up to him and starts taking pictures of him out of nowhere. And Shiraishi gets annoyed because until now, only his family members could actually notice him. But somehow the most popular girl in class can see him perfectly fine. To Shiraishi, this makes absolutely no sense. Nobody even notices his existence, while Kubo is surrounded by people 24/7 like she's a celebrity doing a fan meet. But on the other hand, Kubo is having the time of her life teasing him. She becomes weirdly interested in his invisibility powers and keeps testing just how unnoticed this man really is. At one point, she literally dares him to stand on top of his desk just to prove nobody would notice him. And somehow, it almost works. Like bro could probably commit tax fraud in front of the class and nobody would realize. But this time, their weird little experiment instantly gets noticed by the teacher and the entire class. Right then, Kubo's friend calls her for the next period, so she leaves poor Shiraishi behind looking confused as usual. Later, while walking home, Kubo and her friends talk about how lucky they were because they managed to spot Shiraishi twice in one day. Twice. Bro's treated like a shiny Pokemon encounter. The next day, Kubo finds him again, but this time she's mad at him for some reason. Shiraishi starts replaying his entire day in his head trying to figure out what he did wrong. Bro looked more nervous than students checking exam results. But before he can understand anything, Kubo decides to punish him by casually sitting on his lap right in the middle of class. And she does it with full confidence because she knows nobody will notice them anyway. Shiraishi's brain instantly blue screens. My guy stopped functioning completely. Meanwhile the rest of the class continues living normally because apparently nobody can see this man getting a whole rom-com scene in public. After class, Shiraishi goes to talk with the teacher. When Kubo asks why he always stays behind after class, he reveals something tragic but hilarious. Because of his invisibility, the teacher forgets to mark his attendance almost every single day. Imagine being so irrelevant the school system itself rejects your existence. Later, during class, the teacher asks a question and Kubo immediately raises her hand saying Shiraishi knows the answer. The entire class turns around in shock like, wait, he came to school today? At this point Shiraishi genuinely can't tell if Kubo is his friend, his enemy, or just someone using him for entertainment. Honestly bro became her favorite toy. Then Kubo asks for his phone number, but before he can answer, her friend interrupts them. And during that tiny distraction, Shiraishi disappears again like Batman. On the weekend, Kubo spots him at the park and asks what he's doing there. Shiraishi explains that he came to buy a video game, but on the way he ran into a guy handing out free tissue samples. The tissue guy tried everything to get Shiraishi's attention, but failed every single time because this man has maxed out stealth stats. Only after loudly calling out to him did Shiraishi finally notice and accept the tissues. And somehow, getting handed free tissues made Shiraishi so proud of himself that he completely forgot to buy the actual game. Bro achieved one NPC interaction and considered the mission complete. After that, Kubo tries taking a selfie with him, and honestly this girl is enjoying his suffering way too much. But when Kubo tries taking a selfie with Shiraishi, the phone camera literally can't focus on his face. That's how invisible this dude is. Even modern technology said, sorry, target not found. So to make the camera detect him properly, Kubo basically has to climb on top of him just to take the picture. Meanwhile Shiraishi is internally fighting for his life. In the end, Kubo finally gets his phone number. That night, Shiraishi keeps thinking about everything that happened during the day, especially the selfie and the fact that the most popular girl in school asked for his number. Bro was lying in bed staring at the ceiling like he just unlocked a secret romance route. Then suddenly, Kubo texts him, and Shiraishi instantly panics. Because apparently this poor guy has never gotten a message from anyone before. Not even spam callers wanted him. Kubo asks if he wants to hang out together sometime, and of course Shiraishi agrees immediately. Meanwhile, on Kubo's side, her older sister notices she looks way happier than usual after getting out of the bath. Sis already detected the romance DLC before the audience did. The next day, the class goes outside for physical education, but Shiraishi gets exhausted after running for like 2 steps. Bro's stamina bar is absolutely tragic. He starts sitting in the corridor trying to catch his breath when Kubo walks over to him, but the moment she gets close, Shiraishi quickly backs away because he's sweaty and embarrassed. Kubo honestly doesn't care at all, but she still leaves for a moment and comes back with a scented towel for him. While Shiraishi is distracted thinking about how different and cute Kubo looks with a ponytail, she hands him the towel and says, now we'll smell the same. Bro, this girl is dropping rom-com lines like she's speedrunning his heart attack. Before things get even more awkward, Kubo's friends call her over. When she joins them, they instantly notice how unusually happy she looks, but instead of answering, Kubo just smiles quietly. One of her friends even tries taking the scented towel from her, but Kubo immediately refuses. She straight up says she's not giving this towel away today. Yeah, she's gone. The crush has fully activated. Later, at home, Shiraishi goes out to buy some manga his mom asked for, but when he reaches the store, the automatic door doesn't detect him. I'm not joking, even the door can't see this man. And right at that moment, Kubo happens to walk by and secretly watches him struggle for a while instead of helping immediately. This girl is evil in the cutest way possible. After enjoying the show, she finally places her hand near the sensor with him, and the door opens. When Kubo sees how insanely happy Shiraishi gets after finding his favorite manga, she asks if she can borrow the first few volumes. And of course Shiraishi instantly agrees because bro would probably agree to anything she says at this point. Kubo asks him to bring the manga to school tomorrow. Then, after leaving the store together, they realize something surprising. They actually live in the same direction and only about 5 minutes away from each other. So instead of waiting until tomorrow, Kubo just decides to go to Shiraishi's house to borrow the manga directly. At this point she's basically invading his NPC territory. The next morning, Kubo wakes up early just to meet Shiraishi before school. She even secretly uses her older sister's hairspray. But while eating breakfast, her sister instantly notices and starts teasing her, saying she's trying to impress her crush. Then she casually wishes her good luck too. Kubo gets embarrassed and quickly leaves for school. After waiting for a while, she finally meets Shiraishi, but gets slightly disappointed because he didn't notice her hair fragrance at all. Bro missed the biggest hint imaginable. Average anime male protagonist behavior. Still, the two walk to school together, and Shiraishi realizes this is the first time he's ever gone to school with a classmate, which is honestly kinda sad and wholesome at the same time. They sit on a bench waiting for school to start when Kubo's friends, Hazuki and Tamal, arrive and say good morning, but they completely fail to notice Shiraishi sitting right next to Kubo until she points him out. At this point I'm convinced Shiraishi could vanish during the middle of a conversation and nobody would question it. After school, while walking home, a passing car fails to notice Shiraishi because of his invisibility curse and splashes dirty roadside water all over him. Bro can't catch a break in this anime. Completely soaked in dirty water, Shiraishi heads home to take a bath, only to realize he somehow lost his house key. Bro really lives life on maximum difficulty for no reason. And of course, right at that moment, Kubo runs into him and sees the entire disaster unfold. So she invites him over to her house instead. Shiraishi awkwardly agrees because honestly what other option does this poor NPC have? But the moment he accidentally notices Kubo's bra hanging in the laundry room, Kubo instantly hides it and gets insanely embarrassed. Meanwhile Shiraishi's soul almost leaves his body. My guy wasn't prepared for this level of rom-com danger. After taking a shower, Kubo lends him her tracksuit to wear. And before leaving, Shiraishi politely thanks her for both the clothes and the shower. Kubo then notices his hair is still wet, so she tells him to dry it properly before going home. It's such a tiny moment, but somehow these two make basic human interaction feel more romantic than most anime confessions. Anyway, Shiraishi leaves while acting calm on the inside, but the second he steps outside, his face turns completely red from embarrassment. Bro held it together using the last 1% battery of his social skills. The next day, he returns the tracksuit to Kubo, and while talking, Kubo notices that Shiraishi is only about 1 inch taller than her. So naturally, she starts teasing him by saying couples are usually supposed to have a 6-inch height difference. Shiraishi immediately takes emotional damage, but then Kubo quietly says that compared to a 6-inch difference, she actually likes their height difference more. Yeah, this girl is flirting so openly that even the audience is screaming at the screen now. Meanwhile Shiraishi still hasn't updated his software enough to realize it. Later, the class finishes a test and everyone starts turning in their papers. Right after the exam, Shiraishi quickly says goodbye to Kubo and leaves because he has something important to do. Meanwhile Kubo's friend walks up and asks how her test went, but honestly Kubo's brain is probably occupied with Shiraishi 90% of the time at this point. Later at the park, Shiraishi is hanging out with his little brother Seda. A random woman notices Seda alone and thinks he's lost, but Shiraishi quickly steps in and explains they're together. Then suddenly, Kubo spots them and walks over. Seda notices the drink Kubo is holding and asks for some. Then he tells Kubo to share it with his big brother too. But when Shiraishi pretends to drink from the same bottle without actually touching it, Kubo instantly realizes he's getting shy because it would technically be an indirect kiss. This girl reads him like an open book. Meanwhile Shiraishi thinks he's hiding it perfectly. That evening, it gets really cold, so Shiraishi stays in bed reading manga. Later, he travels all the way to a faraway bookstore because the closer one was closed and he wanted to buy a poster. But right next to the poster section, there's an adult magazine sitting there. At first, Shiraishi picks it up just to put it back properly, but then he starts thinking, well, I already came all this way, maybe one little peek won't hurt. And honestly, the way this dude justified it so fast was hilarious. Plus he figures nobody can notice him anyway. Bro really tried using invisibility for evil. But suddenly, Akina, Kubo's older sister, who also works at the store, walks over and immediately tells him that the magazine is for adults. Shiraishi instantly starts panicking and explaining himself, saying someone else left it there. there and he was just trying to return it. My guy was fighting for his innocence harder than anime characters fight final bosses. After awkwardly buying the poster, he escapes the store at light speed. But he's still shocked that Akina was actually able to notice him. After he leaves, Akina realizes Shiraishi accidentally dropped his school ID card there. Back at home, she gives the ID to Kubo and casually says, "This boy from your school was reading a magazine full of beautiful adult models." Kubo gets completely stunned, and instead of being mad, she suddenly starts worrying about her own appearance. Yep, she's down bad. The next day at school, while returning his ID, Kubo nervously asks Shiraishi if he likes girls with big personalities. Bro almost got hit with a critical romance question, but before he can even answer properly, Kubo immediately laughs it off as a joke and runs away out of embarrassment. Earlier, Shiraishi had promised to hang out with Kubo someday, so naturally, Kubo decides to cash in that promise on Christmas Day itself for a shopping date. And yes, this is absolutely a date no matter what these two socially confused idiots say. When they meet up on Christmas, Kubo tells Shiraishi that she actually brought a gift for him, and the moment he hears that, Bro's soul leaves his body because he didn't buy anything for her. So he tells Kubo to wait for 15 minutes and immediately sprints away to buy something. Except, this man takes 45 whole minutes to come back. Kubo was probably fighting demons waiting there alone. Eventually, Shiraishi returns completely out of breath and gives her a pair of gloves as a Christmas gift. He explains that it took so long because he was trying to find gloves that perfectly matched her outfit. And honestly, that's actually kinda smooth for an NPC protagonist. Kubo gets super happy after receiving them, but then she suddenly becomes embarrassed because the gift SHE brought for him is a bright yellow t-shirt with giant text saying, "I am the main character." Bro, that's foul. She really looked at the most invisible human alive and said, "Yeah, let's put him in maximum visibility mode." A few days later, Shiraishi is playing with his little brother at the park when Kubo suddenly appears out of nowhere again like she has GPS tracking on him. At that moment, Shiraishi is joking around with Seda doing goofy cartoon poses, and Kubo secretly records the whole thing. Congratulations bro, your cringe compilation has officially begun. The next day at school, something feels weird between Kubo and Shiraishi. Turns out, Shiraishi accidentally wore mismatched socks to school. But of course, nobody noticed, because nobody notices him in general. Meanwhile, Kubo also seemed a little different that morning. After class, the teacher asks Kubo to put a notice up on the board, and she asks Shiraishi to help her. But Shiraishi hesitates because if he stretches upward, Kubo will definitely notice his mismatched socks and tease him for it. Unfortunately for him, Kubo already noticed them hours ago. This girl misses absolutely nothing. While standing on a chair to pin up the notice, Kubo catches Shiraishi staring downward, and that's when he realizes why she looked different today. She wasn't wearing tights like usual. Kubo instantly starts teasing him, asking if he's been staring at her legs all morning because he likes them that much. Meanwhile, Shiraishi's CPU temperature rises to dangerous levels. After school, Kubo asks him to go drink those convenience store cup drinks together because she's never tried them before. She says she needs his help so she doesn't mess up the ordering process. Bro got invited on another date disguised as help. At this point, Kubo is doing side quests just to spend time with him. After somehow managing to order the drinks, she asks Shiraishi what he wants, and this absolute legend replies, "I'll have a meat bun." Not a drink, a whole different food item. The cashier was probably confused as hell. While walking home, right before they split up, Kubo suddenly takes a bite from Shiraishi's meat bun, and instantly, Shiraishi starts overthinking whether it's still okay for him to eat it now because technically, indirect kiss. Anime protagonists really treat indirect kisses like forbidden ancient rituals, but before he can decide, two random girls bump into him while passing by, and the bun falls straight onto the ground. Bro lost the battle before even taking the first bite. Then Valentine's Day arrives, and Shiraishi fully expects it to be another completely normal day for him. In elementary school, the teacher once handed chocolates to everyone in class, except Shiraishi accidentally got skipped because of his invisibility. That's actually insane. Imagine being ghosted by your own teacher in real life. Suddenly, Shiraishi notices a heart-shaped chocolate sitting on his desk, but he checks it like 10 times because he genuinely can't believe it's actually there. Bro thought he was hallucinating romance. At first, he assumes someone probably placed it there by mistake. Then for a brief moment, he wonders if maybe, just maybe, Kubo left it there. But right as he's thinking that, Kubo suddenly appears and scares him so badly he practically jumps backward. Shiraishi considers directly asking her about the chocolate, but then immediately backs out because he can't imagine anyone actually giving him chocolates. The self-esteem is underground at this point. Meanwhile, Kubo notices the chocolate under his desk and guesses that one of his secret admirers left it there. She tells him that whoever made those chocolates probably worked really hard on them, so he should enjoy eating them properly. Now Shiraishi becomes completely confused, wondering who could secretly like him. Bro, it's the girl who's basically been flirting with you for 10 episodes. The day before Valentine's, we see Kubo trying to cook chocolates herself, which is terrifying because she almost never cooks. And when she does cook, she burns things more often than she actually makes them. This kitchen was fighting for survival. Holding bags full of ingredients in her hands, Kubo decides that this time she's going to make the Valentine chocolates herself, which is honestly terrifying, because her cooking skills are absolutely horrible. When Kubo cooks, the smoke alarm starts praying, but despite that, she spends the entire night trying her best to make chocolates, and somehow, one heart-shaped chocolate actually turns out perfect. The next day, Shiraishi goes to the library to study because the classroom is already crowded with students preparing for exams, and somehow, Kubo magically appears there too and starts helping him solve questions. At first, Shiraishi assumes she only came to tease him again, but surprisingly, Kubo actually turns out to be really good at teaching. Bro accidentally unlocked the smart supportive girlfriend route. The next day, Shiraishi gets sick and misses school because of a fever, and apparently, this is the first time in years he's missed class. Nobody else notices he's absent, except Kubo instantly does, so she messages him. At that moment, Seda is in Shiraishi's room messing around and accidentally taps the phone, sending Kubo an I miss you emoji. Shiraishi immediately panics and tries explaining the misunderstanding, but Kubo is absolutely not letting this opportunity go to waste. She sends back an I'm lonely without you emoji, then casually blames it on Akina afterward. Yeah right, sure, definitely Akina. After sending the message, Kubo happily goes home looking completely satisfied with herself. The next day, Shiraishi comes to school late and decides he'll just enter during second period instead. But while walking through the hallway, he suddenly runs into Kubo, and this time Asachi has a fever. The moment she sees him, she almost collapses from dizziness and starts heading toward the infirmary. Now every other student in class is already busy doing something, while Shiraishi happens to be free, so he decides to walk her there because he's worried she might literally fall down the stairs. Bro went from invisible NPC to worried husband real fast. He helps Kubo all the way to the infirmary, and while resting there, Kubo keeps holding onto his hand until she falls asleep. And for the very first time in his life, Shiraishi finally feels like the main character instead of a background NPC. A few days later, Shiraishi is walking through the hallway when Kubo suddenly shows up behind him again like a stealth NPC hunter. He thanks her for helping him study because thanks to her, he managed to pass his exams pretty easily. Everything seems nice and peaceful, except both of them are secretly worried about one thing. Since the school year is ending, their classes are going to change soon, and there's a chance they might end up in different classrooms. For the first time, even Kubo looks genuinely nervous about losing the time she spends with him. Outside, it starts raining, so Kubo asks Shiraishi if he brought an umbrella. When he says no, she quickly offers to share hers with him, but instead of admitting she just wants to walk home together, Kubo disguises it as another experiment. She says she wants to test whether people will finally notice Shiraishi if he's standing next to her under the same umbrella. Shiraishi instantly realizes this girl is just making excuses to spend time with him, and because he's still terrible at handling affection, he refuses. But Kubo already expected that, so she suddenly hands him the umbrella and starts walking home alone in the rain instead. Exactly as planned, Shiraishi panics and runs after her with the umbrella, and in the end, the two walk home together anyway. Kubo's IQ in romance tactics is honestly terrifying. While walking together, Shiraishi starts thinking that they really look like an actual couple sharing one umbrella, so out of embarrassment, he suggests walking through the emptier streets instead. At a traffic signal, Akina notices them together, but surprisingly, for once, she doesn't tease them. Honestly, even she could tell this moment was too wholesome to ruin. Later at home, Akina asks Shiraishi if he's free on the weekend because Saki wants to see him again. During the weekend, Shiraishi spots Saki struggling to carry a bunch of shopping bags by herself. Without hesitating, he walks over and offers to help carry them. At first Saki refuses because in her mind, if she wants to become worthy of Kubo, she has to do everything herself. Yeah, this family is weirdly competitive about romance, but eventually, Shiraishi convinces her to let him help. Meanwhile, Kubo starts worrying because Saki still hasn't come home after more than 30 minutes. Akina calmly tells her to relax because when Kubo was little, she used to take over an hour doing the same thing. Then out of nowhere, Saki suddenly asks Shiraishi what his relationship with Kubo actually is. And before Bro can prepare himself mentally, she straight up asks, "Are you her boyfriend?" Shiraishi immediately denies it and says they're just classmates. But Saki instantly counters with, "Oh really? Then you must know Kubo's first name, right?" Absolute trap question. This child is dangerous. Right at that moment, Kubo arrives too, and when Shiraishi casually calls her Nagisa, Kubo's reaction completely gives everything away. Saki instantly realizes these two are way closer than normal classmates. Little Bro solved the romance plot faster than the actual protagonists. The next day at school, Shiraishi's presence becomes unusually noticeable because he keeps sneezing non-stop. And honestly, hearing Shiraishi make noise at all is already shocking enough for people. Bro's entire character setting is usually on mute. Later in class, he gets bored and starts taking apart his pen to play with the spring inside. And of course, disaster strikes when the spring suddenly goes goes missing. Kubo had apparently been watching his childish little pen surgery the entire time. Honestly, she probably finds every dumb thing he does adorable. Since he now needs another pen, Kubo lends him a rabbit-themed toy pen that looks almost identical to his own. And listen, when this happened to me in school, there was no cute anime girl giving me replacement pens. I had to shove a rolled-up piece of paper into the pen just to make it work again. The struggle was real, alright? Anyway, when Shiraishi tries using Kubo's pen, a genuine smile appears on his face because he honestly finds it really cute. And seeing him happy makes Kubo happy too. These two are literally running on wholesome energy alone. That same evening, Kubo's two friends come over for a sleepover. While talking, they start discussing how classes will change next year. Tamao says that if they all end up in different classes, they won't be able to enjoy school events together anymore. And during the conversation, it becomes painfully obvious that Kubo is secretly upset too, because she doesn't want to lose the bond she built with Shiraishi. Yep, the invisible NPC somehow became the most important person in her school life. One day, Shiraishi goes shopping with Seda. And at first, everything seems perfectly normal. Everything is going completely normal during the shopping trip, until suddenly Kubo sneaks up behind Shiraishi and says hi to Seda. Right after that, Saki also appears and greets Shiraishi too. But the second Seda sees Saki, bro turns completely red like a tomato. This little man fell in love instantly. And then, in the smoothest move possible for a tiny child, Seda pulls out his favorite rock from his pocket and gives it to Saki as a gift. A rock, honestly? That's still more confidence than half the audience is talking to their crush. Kubo and Shiraishi both stare at him in complete shock. Meanwhile, Akina suddenly joins the chaos too and immediately starts teasing all four of them. After bullying everyone emotionally for a while, Akina asks Shiraishi if he's free tomorrow. When he says yes, she invites him and Seda to go on a picnic together with them. Originally, Kubo had refused to cook food for the picnic because she knew her cooking skills were basically a public safety hazard. But once she hears Shiraishi is coming too, suddenly her motivation activates. That evening, she enters the kitchen with full determination to cook properly. Unfortunately, her cooking level is still beginner difficulty. At one point she peels onions so aggressively that eventually there's basically no onion left anymore, just emotional damage and onion skin. When Saki notices Kubo looking depressed, she walks over and decides to help her cook. Together they make hamburger steak, which happens to be Shiraishi's favorite food. Even though Saki tells her not to force herself, Kubo stubbornly keeps trying to cut onions, and immediately cuts her finger like every anime cooking beginner ever. Kubo gets sad and quietly walks over to the couch feeling defeated. Then Akina enters the kitchen and surprisingly gives her real advice for once. She tells Kubo that mistakes are how people improve, and sitting around giving up won't help anything. And honestly, rare wholesome Akina moment. Kubo finally cheers up and jumps back into making hamburger steaks with full determination again. The next day, everyone meets at the picnic spot like planned. Seda wastes absolutely no time and immediately starts attacking the food. Then he happily praises Saki's cooking. Meanwhile, Shiraishi notices the hamburger steaks sitting farther away from him. Since he's too shy to ask for them himself, he just quietly gives up. Average introvert behavior. But Kubo notices immediately and hands him one herself, saying she already knew that's what he wanted to eat. Bro, she knows this man better than he knows himself. And when Shiraishi says the steak tastes really good, Kubo instantly smiles in the cutest way possible. But the real entertainment starts when Akina gets drunk and begins teasing Shiraishi non-stop. She asks why he keeps calling her big sister when he hasn't even married Kubo yet. Then she says that until he officially marries Kubo, he should lovingly call her Akina-san instead. Brother got thrown into marriage allegations out of nowhere. Meanwhile, Kubo starts boiling with jealousy and embarrassment and quietly walks away from the group. Seda, despite literally being a child, immediately understands the situation better than Shiraishi, so he tells Shiraishi to go apologize to Kubo. Shiraishi gets completely confused because technically Akina caused the whole problem, yet somehow he's the one getting blamed. Welcome to romance anime logic, my friend. At first Kubo still feels upset, but when she notices Shiraishi genuinely worrying about her and feeling bad, her mood softens instantly, and instead, SHE apologizes to him for acting weird. Then Kubo suddenly asks him something important. Do you also want us to stay in the same class next year? Shiraishi gets surprised because somehow this girl keeps reading his thoughts perfectly every single time. The second school year finally begins. While walking to school, Shiraishi sneezes loudly at a traffic signal, causing nearby people to get startled because they still basically think he's invisible. Honestly, his life hasn't changed that much. But the moment he enters the classroom, he sees Kubo sitting there, and he realizes that this year too, they ended up in the same class again, with seats right next to each other. Meanwhile later, Kubo and her friends go out to a restaurant to celebrate the fact that they all get to stay together this year too. And honestly, for the first time in his life, Shiraishi's background character era might finally be ending. Back at home, Kubo happily tells Akina that she's glad all her friends ended up in the same class this year. And meanwhile, for the very first time ever, Shiraishi is actually excited about a new school year too. Look at my boy developing emotions and social connections. Character growth is real. The next day, the teacher announces that everyone has to join a club. Then she asks who wants to join the environmental club. Now last year, Shiraishi had secretly joined that same club, and somehow the flowers stayed perfectly healthy the entire year even though nobody realized he was the one taking care of them. Bro was gardening in stealth mode. So this year, Kubo raises her hand and tells the teacher, actually, Shiraishi already raised his hand, you just didn't notice. The invisibility jokes in this anime never stop and honestly I'm still laughing. After class, some boys get confused about why a super pretty girl like Kubo would join such a boring club. Others assume Shiraishi only joined because of Kubo. Then they ask a new student named Sudo what he thinks, but Sudo immediately says that's not true. Apparently he and Shiraishi were in the environmental club together last year, and Shiraishi genuinely loved taking care of flowers. Although, Sudo also admits he spent the entire year trying to find Shiraishi in the clubroom and never managed to spot him once. Bro was playing hide and seek against a ghost. Later, Sudo gets placed in the same science group as Kubo and Shiraishi. Kubo encourages Sudo to talk more with Shiraishi, and thanks to her help, the two actually become friends properly for the first time. Afterward, Shiraishi thanks Kubo and says something unexpectedly wholesome, this is the first time I've enjoyed talking to someone besides you, and hearing that instantly makes Kubo blush. Congratulations Shiraishi, you accidentally used emotional riz. While walking home, Shiraishi finally confirms that Kubo is officially his friend, because before this, he only thought of her as a classmate. And honestly, Kubo was low-key annoyed that it took this man this long to realize they were friends. The next day, Kubo challenges Shiraishi to a staring contest, and obviously wins. As punishment for losing, she tells him he now has to personally come say good morning to her every day. Yeah, this girl is creating relationship routines one mission at a time. Later, while Shiraishi is quietly staring out the classroom window, two classmates accidentally smack chalkboard duster dust all over him because they didn't realize he was standing there. Again, invisible man problems. But once they notice him, the boys actually apologize sincerely. Then Shiraishi heads to the bathroom to clean the chalk dust from his hair, and suddenly Kubo appears behind him again like an anime teleportation glitch. Without hesitation, she gently brushes the chalk dust out of his hair with her soft hands. Bro, this is basically a shampoo commercial now. Then out of nowhere, Kubo asks him if he likes girls with ponytails like most guys do, and Shiraishi quietly admits, yeah, I do. The moment she hears that, Kubo instantly takes mental notes for future operations. At the same time, Kubo notices that Shiraishi has actually gotten a little taller recently, and obviously, once height becomes part of the conversation, comparisons must happen. So the two stand against the wall one by one to measure their heights. At first it's a super innocent moment, until Shiraishi accidentally gets a little too close while measuring Kubo's height. My boy instantly panics and runs away in embarrassment. But what he doesn't know is that Kubo got so flustered afterward she could barely even stand properly herself. These two are out here getting shy from existing near each other. The next morning, following the rules of the staring contest punishment, Shiraishi personally says good morning to Kubo, and just hearing that completely makes her day better. Before physical exams, Kubo borrows Shiraishi's tracksuit jacket so she can compare their sizes. Then suddenly, she just keeps wearing his jacket. Shiraishi gets completely confused by this behavior, but later we find out that girls wearing their boyfriend's oversized jacket is apparently a trend. Bro, she is not even trying to hide it anymore. By the way, Shiraishi has grown about 3 centimeters taller now, while Kubo is still the exact same height. One day, Akina notices Shiraishi secretly following someone through the streets like a suspicious stalker NPC, but it turns out he's actually keeping an eye on Seda, who's trying to buy eggs by himself for the first time. Honestly, this family treats basic errands like character development arcs. Akina suddenly remembers the first time Kubo went out to buy eggs by herself as a kid, and let's just say, it did not go well. She dropped every single egg and came home crying like she just lost a ranked match. But back then, Akina gently patted her head and comforted her until she calmed down. Then Akina tells Shiraishi something surprisingly heartfelt. She says that if Kubo ever cries someday, she trusts him to comfort her the same way. Bro got hit with the future husband responsibility side quest. The next day, Kubo invites Shiraishi to watch a movie together, and when Shiraishi sees her wearing a ponytail, yeah, bro's heartbeat immediately goes crazy. Remember earlier when he admitted he likes girls with ponytails? Kubo definitely remembered too. This girl prepares more strategically than military generals. While riding the train, it suddenly gets super crowded, and Shiraishi almost falls onto Kubo. But instead of accidentally touching her, this man bends himself into the weirdest possible angle just to avoid contact. Bro was balancing like Spider-Man fighting for his life. After getting off the train, some random guys start hitting on Kubo while they're walking. Kubo gets uncomfortable, but then Shiraishi finally gathers his courage and steps in saying, "She's with me." And for once, my boy actually sounded cool. Then Kubo grabs his hand and says, "He's my boyfriend." The guys instantly back off and leave. Meanwhile, Shiraishi's soul probably ascended into heaven hearing that sentence. But even after the guys leave, Kubo keeps holding his hand. Yeah, these two are basically dating already. Only they somehow don't know it yet. Since they forgot to reserve movie tickets beforehand, they end up having to wait 2 whole hours. So Kubo invites him to a cafe nearby. There, Kubo learns that Shiraishi likes drinking black coffee. Apparently Akina never lets her drink coffee at home, so she wants to try it too. But the moment she tastes it, she immediately regrets all her life choices because it's way too bitter. bitter, so Shiraishi quietly adds cream and sugar for her until she likes it. Bro accidentally unlocked husband mode again. During the movie, Kubo notices a bunch of different expressions on Shiraishi's face, and Shiraishi admits something kinda sad. He says he usually hides his emotions because nobody ever notices them anyway. But to Kubo, that sounds ridiculous because she can instantly tell how he feels just by looking at him. Honestly, that line was smoother than half the romance anime confessions out there. On the way home, Kubo makes him promise they'll go out together to more places in the future. Meanwhile, Shiraishi starts wondering if Kubo has already learned every expression he makes by now. The next day, Kubo tries one of those popular personality tests she saw on TV and decides to test Shiraishi with it. The result says that Shiraishi will only ever truly love one girl in his entire life. And honestly, we all know exactly who that girl is. Then Shiraishi decides to test Kubo too, and her results say she wants a lot of children in the future. Kubo gets so embarrassed she immediately runs away at full speed. Bro accidentally skipped straight to the marriage arc. The next day, Akina notices that Kubo has been becoming more mature lately and starts reminiscing about her childhood memories. A few days later, Shiraishi starts daydreaming about birthday cake during class because it's his birthday, and suddenly his stomach growls so loudly the entire classroom hears it. For once, the invisible guy successfully made his presence known. Then Kubo gives him birthday-themed chocolates, and Shiraishi gets genuinely shocked that she remembered his birthday was in April. Along with the chocolates, she also gives him a cute stuffed toy. In return, Shiraishi awkwardly promises that he'll definitely give her a birthday gift in August. The fact that someone actually remembered his birthday makes him so happy that he quickly hides his face so Kubo won't see him smiling. Bro is experiencing basic human affection for the first time. At this point, Shiraishi seriously starts wondering why Kubo is always the only person who notices him so easily. Meanwhile, Kubo remembers the very first time she noticed Shiraishi. Back in middle school, she saw him in Tamao's yearbook and thought his invisibility was weirdly funny and interesting. Then later, when her seat got moved beside his in class and she started talking to him, his awkward reactions were so adorable and funny that she decided she wanted to talk to him every single day. And honestly, that one little decision completely changed both of their lives. So now the big question is, will Kubo confess to Shiraishi first, or will Shiraishi finally become enough of a main character to confess himself? To find out, we'll have to wait for season 2. And if you enjoyed this recap, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.